After almost 2 weeks of daily strikes against Iran, the past 2 nights have been remarkably quiet. This as President Trump warned earlier this week the U.S. is locked and loaded if tensions reach a tipping point. Fox News chief foreign correspondent Trey Yingst is live in Tel Aviv with the latest. Trey.
Yeah, hey, Peter, good morning. For now, the United States has halted strikes against Iran as tension remains high across the Middle East. White House officials have indicated that many options remain on the table, including a military option for President Trump, as he explores solutions involving force and diplomacy.
And every once in a while, they're going to set some things up, but they don't have much left. And by the way, they are talking to us right now. They'd love to make a deal. I don't think they're ready to. I don't think it's time yet, but I'm willing to listen, but they cannot have a nuclear weapon.
White House Communications Director Stephen Chung told Fox News Digital that President Trump has always been consistent in saying he prefers a diplomatic solution, but he continues to retain all options if Iran continues terrorist activities in the Strait of Hormuz or against allies. The U.S. naval blockade remains in effect as the economic pressure is being felt inside of Iran.
The economic situation is much worse than previous years. If we take inflation into account, it may have nearly doubled. Incomes have fallen, and the value of our currency has declined. All of this has an impact, and life has become a bit more difficult.
As U.S. and Iranian officials say diplomatic efforts are ongoing to reach a deal that could end the current escalation, the Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen are once again in direct conflict with Saudi Arabia after attacking 2 Saudi-owned oil tankers last week. The Saudis responded with heavy airstrikes against the Yemen-based proxy group. The Houthis then ramped up attacks on Saudi oil refineries, launching new missiles over the weekend. Days ago, President Trump issued a warning to the Houthis, saying that if these attacks on vessels in the Red Sea continue, that both the Houthis and Iran would pay a military price. There are a lot of moving parts right now in the region, but an ongoing U.S. military buildup continues to give President Trump a variety of options moving forward. Peter?
Trey Yingst, thank you. Let's now bring in former CENTCOM Deputy Commander and retired U.S. Navy SEAL Vice Admiral Robert Harward. Admiral, President Trump is thinking of a bigger than ever attack on Iran. At the moment, the New York Times says he has decided not to do that. Mike Waltz just said that he hasn't made a decision. But if he decides to go with this bigger than ever attack, do we have a bomb big enough to get these guys interested in peace talks again?
Well, any singular bomb isn't the answer. It's the overall efforts and capabilities have. And I think the real options they may be preparing now for is boots on the ground to really show the Iranian people that we're moving to the end of this government in Iran. I think that's what he's come to the realization. He tried a MOU, he gave them the opportunity. They responded with aggression going after the Strait. So I think the president's preparing to go the full way on this. And that's why part of this break in the effort, position forces, and be prepared to go to the next step of escalation.
And if he does decide to put boots on the ground, like you're saying, there's a real danger because Iran is now getting help from, apparently, from some superpowers. Even though the U.S. has really rocked the Iranian military, they're still shooting missiles and drones and killing Americans. The war secretary suggested that China and Russia might have their hand in this. Listen to this. And you said today that Russia and China are not helping. Earlier this week, the War Secretary Hegseth said that they are enabling. So what is the difference?
Well, I don't know that they're enabling. I mean, I will tell you that President Xi said he will not partake, and President Putin said the same thing. I think, I trust them.
If China and Russia aren't helping Iran, who is?
No, there's no doubt that Russia and China are involved. This is in their strategic efforts. China's getting oil from Iran at a very discounted price. It continues to undermine the West. So this alliance between, and every president has realized this and said this, between China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea is irrefutable. And the other 3 are nuclear armed states. So, of course, they're assisting and providing enablers. Is it with material? Is it with intelligence? Anything they can get away with. Because it's obviously we've been in conflict with all of them for decades, and none of them want to confront us militarily, but they've all come at us asymmetrically. They've been cyber attacks. They've threatened our people in our countries, especially the Iranians. So, yes, I think it's pretty obvious they mutually support each other's interests.
And this conflict, when it was still epic fury, began with day one. The U.S. took out the supreme leader, the Ayatollah. The Secret Service is now really worried about the Iranians trying to kill President Trump. The New York Times has this piece that President Trump abruptly switched aircraft when leaving Turkey this month after what officials judged to be a credible threat that Iranian proxy forces were targeting him and Air Force One. Does Iran have the ability, or their proxies have the ability, to shoot down Air Force One?
Well, that's the great uncertainty. But the fact is, they've been saying this for years. It's clearly their intent. They may not have the capabilities, and maybe they do, but the fact that they've been saying this for years, and for years we've had to provide protection to our leadership in the U.S. because of surrogates and agents of Iran, is completely unacceptable, indicative why we have to move to a government in Iran which no longer supports these policies. So it's being their surrogates targeting our leadership in the U.S. and other places, going after Air Force One if they had a stinger or some sort of element of power that they were provided by either the Russians or the Chinese. All of these things are just a confirmation of what Iran has been doing for decades, and why the president now has this unique opportunity to go after it and establish a government in Iran that will mean peace and stability in the region for decades to come. And again, these are all indicators of why we have this opportunity now, and we cannot lose it.
And to your point about President Trump possibly putting boots on the ground there, he says that he's not thinking about the midterm elections. He just wants to do what's right. So it could be a total zag like that. We'll see. Admiral Harward, thank you very much for being here.
Good to be with you, Peter.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.